19th century pharmacists were busy making concoctions to become capitalist giants. There were few restrictions or regulations. Opium or cocaine, for example, would get the user's attention. Only a few created colas that caught on. The major challenger to Coke was Pepsi Cola. How did that happen? Pepsi is now number two in colas. It was created by Caleb Bradham in 1893 as Brad's drink and sold in his drugstore in North Carolina. But wait, Brad must have produced a drink with medicinal properties, so it was renamed Pepsi Cola in 1898, emphasizing digestive benefits, relieving dyspepsia. Major ingredients were fizzy water, sugar, cola nut extract, vanilla, and unnamed rare oils, but not pepsin, a stomach enzyme. Bradham figured he had a winner, turning Pepsi into a fountain drink, initially served at Bradham's drugstore, which had its own soda fountain. In 1903, Bradham sold almost 8,000 gallons of syrup. Next, it was time to turn to the home market, selling 6-ounce bottles using franchised bottlers. The advertising theme, delicious and healthful, added to the sales. Being a bit cocky, Brad speculated on sugar prices. Unfortunately, that led to bankruptcy in 1923. It was not a problem with Pepsi, just high sugar prices. The new owner was Charles Guth. He was president of the candy company Loft, which also had soda fountains. He changed the syrup formula and introduced the 12-ounce bottle. That worked reasonably well until the Great Depression of the 1930s, aided by continuous marketing. Once again, near insolvency, Guth tried to sell Pepsi to Coca-Cola with no success. Guth became president of Pepsi Cola during the 1930s until he had to return his Pepsi shares back to Loft when he lost a lawsuit. Loft then merged with Pepsi. Guth also shot and killed his black butler and got away with it. Not a swell guy. Let's switch to Waco, Texas, location of the Branch Davidians and the current home of Baylor University. Pharmacist Charles Alderton invented Dr. Pepper in the 1880s at Morrison's old corner drugstore in Waco and first served around 1885, slightly before Coke and Pepsi. Wade Morrison called it Dr. Pepper. It's called a pepper soda and not a cola. Of course, it was claimed to be medicinal, a likely reason to name it Dr. Pepper, or Morrison was familiar with a Dr. Pepper. There are now a couple of dozen varieties, and it is second to Coke in U.S. soda sales. Thanks to multiple mergers, it is part of Keurig Dr. Pepper. This was a fight between Coke and Pepsi. After all, Dr. Pepper is not a cola. Coke and Pepsi have been rivals for more than a century. Why not declare a public relations war? It may have started with a Pepsi challenge in 1975 using a blind taste test. In the ads, people always preferred Pepsi. No surprise there, except how the tests were rigged. Apparently, Coke samples were served at 32 degrees, too cold for the taste to come out. Later, more scientific tests did not find significant differences in taste. In the mid-1990s, Pepsi came up with Pepsi Stuff, where drinkers got Pepsi points, which could be redeemed for merchandise. This actually worked for several years, Both companies ran ads during football games, especially at the Super Bowl. Continuous ads were not enough, so they competed on new products. They both had several Diet Pepsis and Cokes. New Coke, then caffeine-free and cherry-flavored. They both introduced all kinds of alternative soft drinks like Pepsi's Mountain Dew and Coke's Sprite. Of course, Dr. Pepper got in the mix with 7 Up and Canada Dry. The war continues. Anyway, people have a multitude of alternative sodas, and the big three will continue to be big business. We could next go to the burger wars, but it must be sandwiches and hamburgers first. Next time on Food History and Mystery.